know that was an unusual situation with basically having 7 guys, but when you're in that deal, how valuable does a guy like Josiah become all of a sudden?
I mean, if you have 15 guys, he's valuable. But Josiah is one of those guys that obviously he can go all day. He's one of those basketball players that can be exhausted, but still can think, can still make plays, can still read the offense, can tip off what they're running and what actions we're in. So his effort obviously was huge the other night. And if he didn't do what he did defensively down the stretch, it would have been that game would have been a lot closer than it was. Him guarding their 5-man at the end of the game and actually getting stops is, what makes him so valuable and what, makes it to where we feel like he's the best defender in the country because of it.
He seems like one of the guys on the court that's never just standing on 2 feet. He's always moving around.
Yeah.
What is that a testament to? How valuable is it to have a guy like that?
I think I don't think people realize how smart he is and how much he really understands the game. People, you just see him going hard and making hustle plays and making stops and just guarding his guy one-on-one. But Josiah is one of those guys that puts a lot of time into understanding the game of basketball and watches a lot of basketball. It's interesting. I know a lot of people don't know this. When we were at Baha Mar, I was coming out of my hotel room and going to the elevator to go downstairs so we could walk to the convention room to go play. And they have those benches right before you get to the elevator. And this is a few hours before the game. It's right before we go down to leave, and he's laying on that bench, stomach down, watching his phone. I'm like, man, what you doing? Watching YouTube? He's like, oh yeah, I'm just watching Jeremy Roach highlights. So the dude he's about to go guard in 2 hours, he's watching highlights of him on his own. This is completely no one asked him to do this, but that's how much time and effort he puts into the game and how much pride he takes into being the best defender in the country, because I don't care at the end of the year how many guys are up for National Defensive Player of the Year. I know none of them are doing that. I know they're not. I don't even know who it is or who it will be, but I don't think they put the time in like that.
Then for you, how much pride do you have knowing that hard work is paying off for a guy that put so much into it?
Oh, it's great. Especially, his freshman year here was my first year here at Tennessee. So I've been able to see the maturation process and all the growth that he's had over the years. And obviously it's paying off for him and it's extremely rewarding. So I'm really happy for him, and I just want the success to kind of continue for him, honestly.
It's going well for this Illinois team, and how different are they from the one you guys saw last year?
You know what? Different, very much different. Stylistically, some things are similar. Last year, they were older. Obviously, a lot of guys that have played a lot of college basketball games. You had somebody like Terrence Shannon, who was just a bull in the china shop when driving the basketball. He was one of the toughest guys in the country to guard year after year. Obviously, he was an All-American. So replacing him, obviously, is different. They were extremely big across the board in their lineup. But that's something that obviously is the same with this team. They have the kid Kasparis, other kid Tommy, I should say, number 13, the big fella. They lean on those two guys. They shoot the ball, I think, better than they did last year. And they shot the ball well last year, but they shoot it better. They have some guys that can really fill it up from the outside, and they still play fast. But KJ, the kid, he plays with a little bit better pace. He plays in a lot of drags, really creative off the bounce, extremely skilled, but shoots the ball really, really well, especially off the bounce. I think I've been saying it all week. He's like the closest thing to college basketball I've ever seen to Luka Doncic. And that's not a slight to Luka at all. And, that's not to, go crazy on the young fella, but he's really good, man. He's one of the better freshmen in the country. So it's going to be a big challenge for us.
Coaches, what kind of, just physically, how unique is that for Zakai? I know he typically doesn't have problems with bigger dudes, but this guy's pretty unique. Zakai's giving up, 6'7".
Yeah, no, last year, their starting lineup, they actually, Kylan Boswell, he's about 6'2" in their lineup. Whereas last year, they started Domask at, 6'5", 6'6". Then they had Terrence Shannon, who was, they listed him as 6'6", but there's no way he was 6'6". He had to be 6'7.5", something like that. Then Ty Rogers, who was 6'6", 6'7". So they were bigger last year across the board than they are this year. But Kylan Boswell was the only difference. Obviously, Kasparis is 6'6". You've got Trey White, who's 6'7", and Ben, the kid, the transfer from Evansville, is about 6'8", 6'9". So a lot of size, a lot of skill, a lot of shooting, a lot of versatility. A lot of guys that can handle and play in ball screens. So they'll ball screen more than any team that we played this entire year. We played Miami the other night. And I believe in the game they set 75 ball screens, whereas Illinois in their last game set, I think, 93. So this will be the most ball screen heavy team that we've played to this point. And a big emphasis for us all year has been perfecting ball screen defense, right? So it's going to be great, test for us to go out here and see if the work is paying off.
Zakai talked the other night about not ducking any smoke with this number 1 ranking. How have you seen them attack this week? And they seem excited to be ranked number 1 and kind of take on this challenge.
To be honest, man, like even talking about it when we go in and watch film here, the excitement that we have to play it's honestly infectious amongst the whole group, and everybody kind of carries on the same. I think we all have the same approach to where number 1 is great, but it doesn't mean anything if we don't consistently prove it, right? We talked about that before our last game. Like, man, listen, be excited, be happy, like wear this pride that you're the number 1 team in the country, but at the same time, the chip on our shoulder is that every time we step on the floor, you have to show everyone that's watching if we are the number 1 team in the country. Show them why we are, right? And then amongst each other as teammates, hold each other accountable to being the number 1 team in the country on a daily basis. And I think that our guys do a really good job of that. We have a championship culture. We really do. But a championship culture doesn't mean anything if you don't win championships, to be honest.
How much has the standard that's been set that you just talked about, how much does that help these guys handle the expectations of being ranked number 1 and then also getting right back on the road and going and playing a big time game?
Yeah, it's who we are. The standard means everything around here in this program, whether it's the culture, and that's the standard between the coaches, the players. Everyone is held to a standard of excellence. Everyone is held to a championship standard. And when you have guys like Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Meshack and Jordan Yaney, and honestly, you highlight Zakai and Jemai, like if you had to make a 4-year basketball career outside of a national championship, would you not lay it out like their careers have been? Like, I mean, they've been able to put their year on 3 different banners. They won 2 championship rings. They've been to the round of 32, Sweet 16, and the Elite 8, right? So the thing that's missing, obviously, is the big one. And every day you're just stacking bricks to kind of get to that last game on Monday night. So I think that for us, it's one game at a time, making sure that we hold each other to the same standard every single day, regardless if it's the days that we're tired and we're trying to pull it up out of each other. That's what we're here for. That's why we're a team. That's why we're a family.
Is D-Stone still in concussion protocol, and where's kind of Cam at in that timeline of his eventual return?
Haven't got word on it yet. I know both of those guys are working, progressing back. I'm sure, Cam has been really good in his rehab process and doing some court stuff, and D-Stone has been present for everything and kind of, he's been locked in just as much as anybody. So I'm sure they'll be back here soon. We just I kind of let Chad and G handle a lot of that stuff. So
You spoke about Jemai's on-ball defense and all that, but what does he do off-ball that makes such a difference defensively that people don't necessarily see?
Yeah, I I remember coming to him after the under 12 timeout, and I was like, hey man, we gotta hear your voice more. Like you're not active enough. Like we don't hear you. You're not coaching guys up on the floor like we need it. And that's when we made that push, right? And we started getting those stops, stringing them together, and he came to the under 4. And I'm like, man, like it's that easy for you. Like, but we need it consistently. That goes back to that championship standard that we have. It's like you have to be that guy, otherwise we're a different team. And it's great to see that his voice has grown that much as he's became a senior, to where he's a guy that, when we go over scout, he's extremely locked in. He knows the actions. He knows how to read some of their tendencies. He understands a lot of that stuff, and so guys lean upon him to be that defensive catalyst while he's on the floor.
Coach, it felt before the season that it always felt like you guys have a lot of confidence in Kade. How much do you think this first month of the season, just kind of being forced in with JP out and D-Stone out, how much confidence do you think he's gained because of that?
Yeah, I mean, he's gained a lot of confidence, man. Like, Kade's a tough dude. He always has been. I remember when we, in the process of recruiting him, like going down and watching him in high school, and you could just tell that everything in front of him was going to be his best basketball. And you were excited about what he was at the moment because he was a tough dude that just fought through everything, whether it be injuries, adversity, and even the fact of Kade saying when he first got here, like, look, I don't really know how to play yet, but once I figure this thing out, I'm going to be pretty good. And obviously he's been able to do that. I mean, the fact that he's shooting like 72% from the field in games, and I've never been around a guy that everybody in the gym knows he's going to dunk and he just keeps dunking the ball. That's kind of crazy. And it's not an insult to the teams we're playing, but I think if I was a player, I probably wouldn't let him dunk. But he's obviously laid his mark on our games, on every one of them, and he's been a spark plug off the bench. And, you know, every game that he continues to play, his role for us and his energy gets more and more important. So for him, it's just making sure that he keeps staying the course and continues to be that spark plug we need off the bench.
What wrinkle does he really add, especially on offense, getting ahead or getting ready for Illinois?
What wrinkle does Kade add?
Yeah, just like with his presence down in the post or just him out there, like how different does that make the offense?
Yeah, it makes it different because you have a guy that can play vertical over the defense. You're able to throw lobs with him on that back line. He works really well. He's gotten really smart with his cutting. He's versatile, so he can do some things on the perimeter. You know, I remember, everybody's comment when he was a young player was how raw he was. And out of short rolls and pick and rolls, he was actually really good, which means he has a really good feel for the game, which is why he can continue to get these dunks and cut on the backside. And he has a feel for that because he just knows how to play basketball, honestly. Now, does he know exactly what he's trying to do all the time? Yeah, probably not. He's learning that. But as an athlete, he uses it in the right form, whether it's defensively or offensively. And I think things are really starting to come together for him now. There's still a lot of meat on the bone, so he's got a lot more work to do and a lot more to strive for. But like I said, he's been huge for us, and we needed him and his efforts to continue.
Thank you, Coach.
No problem.